12s, welcome to another lesson with KHUMALO.M. I hope you enjoyed lesson number 8, where we're talking about the core industrial regions in South Africa. It was a fun topic to do, and I hope you are going to ace that per section in the examination. Today, grade 12s, if you have not subscribed to my channel, go there and click the subscription button and also click the notification button so that you can be able to get the lesson from the Geography Sangoma. Now, grade 12s, I want us to do something different today. So today we are going to be looking at what we call the strategies of industrial development. When we talk about strategies of industrial development, what are we talking about? We are talking about the ways in which the government are taking to ensure that the industries, and what are industries? Those types of business that deal with manufacturing and processing of raw materials. So the strategies of industrial development in South Africa. Now, let's look at what we have to know according to the examination guideline, grade 12. Now, the examination guideline states that the strategies for industrial development, they must learn about the overview of apartheid industrial strategy. So there was one industrial strategy that we are required to learn that was during apartheid. Now, during apartheid, the industrial development strategy that they used was the Good Hope Plan. Then after the apartheid, that means after 1994, they developed a new industrial strategy, which is the RDP, that stands for the Reconstruction Development Program, the GEAR, which stands for the Growth, Employment and Redistribution. Then we also developed the Industrial Development Zones, which is the IDZ, and the Spatial Development Initiative, which is the SDIs. So we must know the SDIs and the IDZ. Then we have to learn case studies. So they will ask you in terms of case studies in the exam. That is why they say case studies of 2 industrial development zones and the Spatial Development Initiative. Then now, listen to me very carefully. You must be aware when you are studying grade 12, you don't study all the IDZs and all the SDI. The only ones you are required to study for this year will be the IDZ, will be the Koyega, and the SDI will be the Wild Coast. You can say with me, grade 12, the IDZ is the Koyega and the SDI for this year is the Wild Coast. 2023, the final exam and the trial examination you are going to write soon, it states that you must know the IDZ is the Koyega. Write it down as you're watching this lesson, and the Wild Coast, also write it down as you are watching this lesson. So let's look at what are the key, what is the important thing that I must know before I can go into the examination. What do they want to know about this Koyega? What do they want to know about this Wild Coast? What do they want to know about IDZs? And what do they want to know about SDI? Now, you must know the definition and be able to differentiate between IDZ and SDIs. Be able to locate your IDZs, the given IDZ and the SDI on the map of South Africa. Then you must be able to state or give or name the factors that influence the location of the prescribed IDZs and SDIs. The main industrial activities that are taking place in these areas, you must be able to know them. Factors that favor and factors that hinder the development of the prescribed IDZ and SDI, the economic and the social impact, and as I said, the case studies that illustrate the above topic. Now, let's look at in the continuation of this exam guideline. It also says that we must understand the concept industrial centralization and industrial decentralization. Be able to define those two words, industrial centralization and industrial decentralization. The causes for industrial decentralization, the advantages and the disadvantages, and the solutions. Then you will look at the contribution of your tertiary sector. That will be on another lesson where you look at the tertiary sector. And all these things that are given there, they are on the other lessons that I'm going to post afterwards. Now, let's start this lesson. What is an IDZ? An IDZ is an industrial development zone. But that is not a definition. It's just writing it in full. Now, an industrial zone that has been identified especially for export-driven industries. So now this is an area that is a zone. A zone is an area. It is an area where we find industries that are manufacturing and producing goods, and those industries, they were developed for exports so that they can can manufacture and sell those products to other parts of the world. Then the Spatial Development Initiative are areas that have been identified in South Africa as having the potential of economic growth. So those are areas that we look at them and say they have a potential growth, and then we name them as the SDI, and they link all these IDZs. So the SDIs will link all these IDZs. Then we've got the concept of decentralization, the development of economic activities in an area away from the central location. So now we start to move these industries to the outlying areas. Then let's look at the overview of apartheid industrial development strategy. The strategy that was developed during apartheid for industrial development, it was known as the Good Hope Plan. Let's now take a look. What is the Good Hope Plan? Now, the Good Hope Plan, it dealt with the spread of economic wealth in South Africa. So they were all about spreading the economic wealth all around or all across South Africa. And this led to the geographical regions that make up the 9 provinces. So that's where now we started having different provinces: Gauteng, Eastern Cape, we've got Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape, Free State. All those provinces, they came as a result of the Good Hope Plan. Then the other aim of that policy, which is known as the Good Hope Plan, or the strategy of Good Hope Plan, was the concentrated points created. The isolated industries development points were identified. The tax incentives, which were to encourage industries to move from the central areas into the outlayers of a city. And then border industries created on the borders of homelands. So borders of homelands between provinces, there were borders of industries that were created by the Good Hope Plan. So the Good Hope Plan had to drive all these key points that I've mentioned, the grade 12s. Then after apartheid, they introduced the Reconstruction Development Program, which is the RDP. Now remember, grade 12, in previous grades, you used to play or joke around with this concept of RDP. Some will say Releboga dintlo papa, some will say Rekupela dintlo papa. But now what I want you to know, grade 12, is Reconstruction Development Program is a policy. Now, it's not houses. Houses are part of the RDP policy. So when you are going to call a house an RDP, you must say an RDP house, not a house is RDP. RDP house, there were houses that were built as a result of the policy or the strategy known as RDP. Now, I'm going to make you to understand this a little bit better. The purpose of the RDP was to improve the quality of life, meaning that social development, that people had houses, people had health care, people had jobs, people had what? So you see, this policy, it carries a lot of key points. The RDP was aimed on local development and achieved some significant success. So it was a successful policy. And then let's look at another one. Okay, when we continue about this policy, I want you to quickly look at this diagram, grade 12. These were the key development areas of RDP. So you spoke about land reform. You still remember land reform in settlement geography. There it is again, the housing, healthcare, water, electricity, and public works were the key points of RDP. So RDP is not houses, but houses are part of the policy of RDP. Then after that, they had another strategy which was known as GEAR, the Growth Employment Redistribution, which is GEAR. This was an attempt to improve and extend the RDP. So now, you know, grade 12, that once you have acquired something or once you have built something, maybe you are building a house, you are going to constantly paint this house, constantly try to develop it. So in the same way, the RDP policy was there and it was successful. So now they wanted to improve the RDP policy. So they came up with what? The Growth Employment Redistribution. Now we are going to look at now what were the focus areas for the Growth Employment and Redistribution policy. Now, the focus was to ensure that people were given jobs. So people had to be given jobs. So this policy came to ensure that people were given jobs and houses, clean water, which is also stipulated in the RDP policy, but was to make it more better. The GEAR plan was focused on developing trade, investment, and private enterprise. So people now can start opening their own businesses, and it was also developed so that they can make a good trading relationships with other countries, so that we can sell our minerals to them, and then they can give us foreign exchange, and we buy some of the things that we do not have, because the resources are unevenly distributed across the world. And then this policy, grade 12, I want you to know that it was also successful in attracting forest investment. So most people started to invest in South Africa. More businesses started to come to South Africa. That is why now we have businesses that are from outside of the country. But nevertheless, there was a new policy that was developed, which was called the BEE. Now, the Black Economic Empowerment Policy. Now, this policy was brought by the was brought in relation to the rejection of the GEAR policy by trade unions. So trade unions, they rejected the GEAR policy, even though the GEAR policy was successful. They came with the Black Economic Empowerment. The Black Economic Empowerment. So this BEE, they wanted black people to make black people to be able to open their own businesses and run businesses as a strategy. And then the last thing that grade 12 is now, what were the benefits of GEAR? The benefits of GEAR: new jobs were created. There was an improvement in the output, the products that we were exporting. So there was a large production of those products. There was privatization of state-run organizations. The government can now own organizations such as ESCOM and other ones. Better business procedures. There were increasing investment, more businesses or multinational companies that are from other places. They came to South Africa. It encouraged trade and it developed infrastructure. Remember, I said infrastructure is buildings, transport network, and communication. That is what we define, how we define infrastructure in geography for now. This is me, KHUMALO.M. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. If you have not subscribed on the YouTube channel, click the subscription button, click the notification button so that you can get more of these videos. I hope this will help you on your trial and your final examination. Have a lovely day. This is from me, KHUMALO.M, the Geography Sangoma. Have a lovely day.